This podcast is proudly brought to you by the Sightshed's Learn and Ski initiative. It's a program we kicked off back in August of 2016, where I took a group of enthusiastic business owners from all over the country over to New Zealand. Actually, it was in Wanaka in New Zealand, where we took part in the very first Learn and Ski program. We skied in the morning, and then we did a business workshop in the afternoon. It was a fantastic time. Everyone had a great experience over there. And it was so good, in fact, that this March, we are launching the second Learn and Ski. And this time we're taking a group of trade-based business owners from all over the country to the lovely Japan. And we're actually going to a place called Hakuba, which is in the Nagano region where the Olympics was held. I've personally been there. It is a crazy, crazy place, just full of a ridiculous amount of snow, and it's going to be an unbelievable experience. Sadly, we can only take 20 people to this one, obviously due to logistics. It's not the easiest thing to coordinate. So a quarter of the tickets are already sold as we've been emailing our group. However, if you are interested in the snow and you do want to learn about some unbelievable business initiatives that can help you compound your business this year, then this event is certainly for you. We're going to be talking, I'll just touch a little bit on what you'll learn over there. We're going to be talking about specifically strategies and marketing campaigns that we've implemented with our clients that bring in, up to 2 to 10 leads every single day. We're going to talk about the most common elements you need to have on your website that can make or break your lead generation efforts. And we're going to talk about how you can turn your, tire kickers into customers, and more importantly, how to turn those customers into raving fans. And then we're going to go through some step-by-step workings together with you personally on how to set up your very first Facebook ad campaign. We're also going to talk about systems and processes that can cut down your admin work. And while we're over there, internet permitting, we're actually going to hire somebody live during the week with the hope that you guys can learn how to hire somebody to outsource some of your office managerial tasks, etc. We're going to have some breakout sessions there where we're going to focus specifically on your business. And I'm holding this event with Will from Growth Labs, who you guys would have heard on the podcast previously. Will is just a marketing guru, and we're just going to be doing heaps of stuff coming up. He's also an avid skier. So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic event. So the dates are going to be March 4 to March 10. The location's in Hakuba. If you want more information about what the package includes and everything, then head across to the sightshed.com/Japan 2017. All the information is on there. And I stress again, there's only 20 tickets to this. Over a quarter of them are gone, which means that if you want to get in, you want to get in quick. Now, this has gone out to the podcast community, so I can't imagine they'll last too long. It's extremely good value for what it is. It's just a way that I can help you guys spend a bit of time investing on your business while also taking you to an amazing location where we can just have a whole heap of fun while we're there. You 100% you'll enjoy it. And this is what one of the other attendants said about the 2016 event.
Yeah, I went to Learn and Ski 2016 in Wanaka. It was fantastic. We had a good time on the mountain, and we also learned a little bit. And I found it really great networking with the guys and sort of meeting some other guys in the trades. Yeah, just a really great experience.
So anyway, folks, there it is. You've heard it from one of the attendees. It's going to be an incredible event. Get across there. You're going to learn a whole load of stuff that you can implement straight into your business. I mean, all the information in the world's useless unless you implement it. And we're actually going to sit there and help you implement it. So, I mean, it's worth that alone, regardless of the world-class skiing. Head across to the sightshed.com/Japan 2017. Get it locked in quick, otherwise you'll miss out. Hello, listeners, wherever you are in the world. Once again, thank you for sharing your earbuds with us. You're joining us today for part 2 of the Getting Stuff Done series. This is setting goals that count towards your game plan, and I'm joined by Mr. Tom Reber from motorhand.com. Tom's located in Colorado in the United States, and this is a segue from the first episode, which was creating a game plan within your business. And if you missed that first episode, be sure to go back and check it out because this one ties beautifully into it. And then in the following and final episode, we're going to be talking about keeping yourself accountable to your game plan. So hope you enjoy this. Head across to the show notes and get a copy of Tom's ebook. He's offered that up for free. There'll be a link there. And if you've got any questions or comments, just post them in the comments section of the show notes or across any of the social media streams that you happen to see this episode pop up. Anyway, enjoy, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.
giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello listeners and welcome back to part 2 of the Getting Stuff Done series, where I'm joined by my co-host Tom Reber. Tom, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me again. It's great to be back.
Fantastic. Now, for the listeners out there that missed the first episode, we were talking about creating a game plan in your business, and it was focused largely around setting goals and just giving yourself a bit of a roadmap to success when we're talking, from a business. Well, not even a business, just in general, personal business, whatever it is. But I suppose the bottom line is there: if you got to have some sort of strategy, some sort of game plan in place. Otherwise, you're not really aiming towards anything. That was a fantastic episode, and we talked through some really cool stuff on, I suppose everything from getting a team buy-in right through to, setting smart profit goals as opposed to, turnover goals and just all this kind of cool stuff. In this episode here, we're going to be talking a little bit more specifically about setting goals that count towards that final game plan. And I think this is something that most people this is probably where I'd imagine most people have the biggest bottleneck, is that, they can go ahead and they can set that big, gigantic goal, but, what are the steps to help them get there? Is that something that you see often people struggle with, Tom?
Yeah, I think, we frequently, I think, take too many things on. We have goals that aren't necessarily big enough, or that are going to have a big impact. So if you've read the book, The One Thing, it talks about what's that first domino that's going to knock down a bunch of other things in your life. And so I think, really setting the right goals comes down to identifying what that domino is going to be to give me the biggest impact.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And again, is this episode really directed at, anybody out there, or are we talking mainly at owners or, leaders, or what's the go?
Well, listen, I think all of us need to have goals, regardless of your position, whether you're the owner or you're the foreman, or, hopefully if you're the laborer in the field, you've got some goals for your life. So I think this is applicable to anybody that wants to level up their life and go somewhere.
I'll tell you, it's kind of a little bit of a segue, but I don't know if you've read Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, Total Recall.
I have not.
Yeah, it's really, like, if you want to talk about goal setting, like, that guy is just the goal setting king. Like, it's unbelievable what he's achieved. And it's all, back in the day, he just used to, at the beginning of each year, sit down and write down these goals. And at the end of the year, he'd go through and just cross them all off one by one. Like, just crazy. It's really, really quite inspiring, that book.
Have you, did you hear him on Tim Ferriss's podcast?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Phenomenal interview. I love that one.
Yeah,
I recommend that.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I suppose let's talk about the why. I mean, it's probably a little bit obvious, but, why is it so important that, we're, setting these little goals in order to help us gradually achieve that bigger one?
Well, earlier we talked about identifying what you really want, and, you're always going to hit what you're aiming at.
Yeah.
In the Marine Corps, I don't care where I thought I was aiming. When I pull the trigger, my round is going to hit exactly where the crosshairs were.
Yeah.
So I think having very clear targets to put our eyes on and focus on is going to absolutely ensure that you end up getting what you want. I mean, the worst thing to do is what if you build a business and you get to the end and you're like, this isn't what I wanted?
Yeah.
That's obviously a problem. So
I think one thing as well, which is really important for business owners, is to, like, nothing is for certain, like, with business. And I know even with my own, like, I look at, where my business was 3 years ago and then where it is today and the direction that I want to take it, it's totally different. And it's not like I'm always finding it's being steered in different directions because of little variables and things like that. And, maybe, looking at where the market's heading and all this kind of stuff. Like, I think it's really important that people acknowledge that. And this could be the same for any business, I'm sure. Like, if you're a builder, perhaps where you start your business and you may be a specialist in one area, like, who knows, like, with all this, sustainability and environmental products and all these really cool things that are coming onto the market, like, you could find in 5 years' time that your business has taken a completely different direction. But the reality is, if you're not sort of planning that, then, you may still be stuck where you were.
Yeah. I remember years ago, our ideal client persona changed a lot through the years when the economy tanked. Prior to it being a great economy, we had a certain client profile. And then after the economy tanked, it totally changed.
Right.
And you have to be willing to adapt and adjust. And here's the other thing, Matt, it's okay to change your goal.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I'm not a fan, like if it's halfway through the year and you're not on track to hit your sales goal, don't reduce your goal.
Yeah.
I think you got to get creative and go attack this thing and find a way to get it done. But sometimes, this is why it's so important to understand where we want to go, what we want this thing to look like. And I talk about saying, okay, well, when I set a goal, ask myself, okay, well, what if I hit it? Then what?
Yeah.
Am I going to be closer to what I really want this thing to look like? Because sometimes it's not a money thing, Sometimes it's not growing the business. Sometimes it's growing it in different ways, to free you up or just to be more profitable or, serve a different type of client where the level of revenue that we're at, we're good. And so I think, most people set the wrong goals. Either they're too small or they're just focused on the wrong things, and they're not going to get us to where we really want to be with that vision that we talked about before.
I would say, I'm not sure what it's like, with a lot of your clients in the US, but a lot of my clients here in Australia, they're so busy. They're so busy all the time. Like there's just so much work going on here. Like their goal is very rarely to get busier. Like they can barely facilitate the work that they've got at the moment, let alone bring on more. And it's actually it's actually quite a big concern. Like I've got clients, builder clients that are booked out 18 months, 24 months in advance. Like it's unbelievable. It's a great situation to be in. But when they're setting their goals, it's not so much about how they can bring on more work. It's more about how they can free up more time in their lives, or how they can get their jobs to run smoother, or turning their intellectual knowledge and their intellectual property and getting their teams to sort of take over and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great problem to have. Who wouldn't want to be booked out 18 months?
Yeah.
That's. However, you want to make sure that you're booked out and that you're enjoying the process.
Right.
That you're not stressed out the whole time out running around on that hamster wheel. So,
right.
So maybe it's a matter of, hey, I'm grateful to be booked out this far, but what would make me enjoy my business more?
Yeah.
And maybe set a goal, that is more in line with that.
Yeah. So when we talk about, I suppose, we spoke about it a little bit in the last episode. We were talking about reverse engineering these goals, and I know we're going to run through a bit of a framework in this episode here in a little while.
Sure.
But why? Can you just explain to the listeners the importance of taking these large goals and then breaking them down into more digestible goals?
Absolutely. So I know we talked about reverse engineering a goal of, hey, I want to have 150,000 in profit, right?
Right.
So let's just take that. Let's just say you go, listen, after all said and done in my business, I want to have 150,000 bucks left. I think this is where knowing your math, knowing things like, the number of leads that you have coming in,
mm-hmm.
Knowing your average sale.
Yep.
What's my average sales size? What's my closing rate?
Yep.
On those leads. When you have that information, you can easily reverse engineer. And the cool thing is when you track your leads and your sales, I can actually, look at where the dollars are going in my marketing and what's producing the biggest number of leads, what's producing the biggest number of sales.
Yep.
If you track your leads, and listen, this could just be a spreadsheet. Because listen, I think the CRM world has done a terrible job of creating lead tracking stuff for contractors. That's just a side note.
Yeah.
And so, I think just creating a spreadsheet that's like, hey, this is the zip code or the postal address of the town that it's in. This is the type of project they were interested in. This is the lead source. This is all these things that when the more data that you have, you can reverse engineering what it's going to take in order to have, that $150,000 project
mm-hmm.
or profit. And so in our example of 150 grand, I think one of the ways is I like to identify where I want that money to come from.
Yep.
Okay. What are my most profitable types of projects? I'll give you an example from years ago. I had a similar situation where we wanted to grow 15% in a certain town because it was our most profitable town.
Yeah.
And so what we did is we said, okay, we want to increase 15% in this town, which in our case probably would have netted us 150 grand or more.
Yeah.
If we had done this. And I always start with a what if question. Okay. So and it's a strategy, because strategy is where the money lives. There's lots of different tactics in the world, but they're not all going to apply to what we want to do. So when you have a clear, think of strategy like this, what if we did this? So have you heard of Domino's Pizza?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so at some point 30, 40 years ago, some marketing dude was sitting around, sales were probably low, and he goes, hey, what if we guaranteed 30-minute delivery? That's a strategy. It's a what if. It's not necessarily a tactic.
Yep.
Okay. And then that strategy left to a bunch of tactics, which are the how-tos. And so when you're trying to raise your net profit or you want to make 150,000 bucks in net profit, I would encourage you to say, start with some what if questions. Hey, what if we trained our foreman to sell? What if we started there? What if we educated our current clients about the other things that we do? I don't know about you, but I remember driving down the road one day, and one of my best customers ever was having the exterior of her house painted by my biggest competitor.
Right.
And I like slammed the brakes on and I pulled down the street and I call her. I'm like, Carol, what's up? She's like, what do you mean? I said, are you mad at me? She says, no. I said, I painted your interior 3 or 4 times and you got Bob painting your exterior. She goes, well, I didn't know you did exteriors. So that's totally on me. So sometimes it's just a matter of starting with this strategy of just going, it's not always about, if I want to make 150 grand in profit, it's not always about doing more. So what if we provided the best experience anyone's ever had with a contractor ever? What if that was our main strategy? And then from there, you break it down to what those tactics could look like. Yep. That's how I reverse engineer hitting any goal that I set, is I always start with a strategy versus tactics right away.
Now, I know you've mentioned here that a lot of people set the wrong goals. What do you mean by that?
Well, number one, they're not rooted in what you really want. You set a goal because, I remember being in a group of contractors, coaching group years ago, and, everyone would get up and share their goals. And then I'd be like, well, shit, I better share a goal. I better have a goal like that too.
Right.
Oh, and so we start letting others define our own success. So I think you have to be very diligent about defining what success means to you.
Yeah.
And start with that. So to make sure that this is really going to be worthy of my time, what if I hit it? Let's say I hit this goal. Then what am I going to have what I want?
Yeah.
And sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's no. The other thing I think we do when we set the wrong goals is we focus on, the big one right now that I'm hearing all the time and I'm seeing in my Facebook groups and stuff is guys are starting to talk about the revenue goal.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying revenue is not important. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a sales goal, but the 3 main goals that I encourage people to set are, number one, a profit goal above and beyond what you pay yourself as a salary.
Yeah.
What's going to make, here's what net profit is to me. Net profit is the financial pat on the back that you get for running a good company. And that profit you can use to reinvest into the business. You want to go buy yourself a boat, you buy yourself a boat. You want to help somebody fund an adoption. That happened to me. I had a buddy of mine, Tim, who owns a really successful photography company. I have 3 adopted kids.
Yeah, right.
And going through some super hard times many years ago. And I ran into Tim. He invites me and my wife and my one kid at the time over for dinner. And he goes, hey, listen, I heard you were adopting and we really believe in that. I got 5 kids, so we can't adopt. Slides over an envelope with $5,000 to help us with the expenses.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So setting a profit goal, profit is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of contractors and business owners in general say things like, well, I just want to be fair to my clients. I don't want to get too big of a profit. But here's the problem with that. When something goes wrong and you're not in business to take care of it for them, is that fair to them?
Yeah.
When something goes wrong and you got to go back and fix something and there's a warranty issue and you don't go back, or you hem and haw about going back because you didn't make enough money to begin with on the thing, that's not fair either.
Yeah.
So profit is a good thing, and the big greedy corporations and the media and all that are going to, point and go, oh my God, look at all the profits these companies are making. But listen, the reality is in the contracting world, the average contractor ain't making 10% when all's said and done.
Yeah.
And that's to me what's really, really unfair. So the first goal that I would encourage people to send to me, that's the right goal, is a profit goal. And then the second goal for me is an overhead goal. Okay. And here's what I mean by that. Like, if you want your profit to go up, then make sure that you're not hiking the mountain with too heavy of a backpack.
Right.
I'm sitting here looking at the mountains in Colorado in my backyard here. And it's the example I always use. Like if I'm gonna climb a mountain, go on a big hike, I got Pikes Peak here, it's 14,000 something feet high. And I'm not gonna put my bowling ball in the pack. Yeah. I'm not gonna strap my kitchen chair to the pack.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing my TV, but what I am gonna bring, I'm gonna bring some water. I'm gonna bring some sort of water straw filtration type thing. I'm gonna bring a way to make fire. I'm gonna bring some food.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna bring a first aid kit. I'm gonna bring, a map. I'm gonna make sure that the things that go in my pack are essential to the climb. And so move that over to setting an overhead goal in your business. I would encourage people to see how lean can I run this thing instead of the other way around. When I adopted my one son from Haiti, we were in the orphanage and we walk in and there's a plaque on the wall and it's awesome. I should have taken a picture. It says, to our guests, if there's anything at all that you need to make your stay more comfortable, please let us know and we'll tell you how you can live without it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I talk to guys that have, gargantuan overheads for the profit they're making and the revenue they do. And they blame it on the excuse they use is, well, I'm building my infrastructure so I can really handle the volume later on.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. Okay. So you just want to say that you have the biggest nuts.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You want to have the most trucks and the biggest building and the fanciest this, and you want to be able to say you have X amount of people working for you. So I would encourage people to really have a hard, open, honest talk with themselves about what overhead gets to say and stay in the business. And another thing for me is if I have an overhead item that is not adding an ROI to me that I can't point to, and sometimes it's not a financial one, okay, but then I seriously consider letting it go.
Yeah, I see that. You know what? And even myself in my own business, that's something that I learned. I think maybe we all do learn the hard way initially. Like, what are you spending money on, and what can you avoid? And I had dinner with a fellow last Friday, and he was saying that the company he works for, they're a small plumbing company in the local area here in Sydney, and there's 4 staff, and 3 of them are office staff.
Yeah,
I nearly fell off my chair. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I've heard of stupid business models in the past, but that is going to be up there with one of the most stupid. And I said, what do they do? And he goes, I have no idea what they do.
Well, listen, I ran a business.
On the road. He's the only one doing the plumbing. All the rest of them are in the office.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
so he's like giving away probably $50,000 to $70,000 a year. Easily.
Sorry, it's not his company. Let me. Yeah, it was. He was the plumber working for the company.
Gotcha.
He's just finished the apprenticeship and all this kind of stuff. So, but he was just.
Well, whoever the owner is getting, is hosing himself.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, listen, I ran out of a 12 by 12 room in my basement.
Yeah.
When I first started my business, for the first 3 years, grew to $1 million.
Yeah.
And did not have a shop.
Yeah.
Did not have an office staff.
Yeah.
And we ran really lean. And what's funny is the minute we got a shop and an office person, things started to fall apart.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another story. And that fall apart in the sense that I think I was just a crappy leader at the time.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not blaming anyone but me. But I would usually, when I sit down with somebody and I look at their profit and loss sheet, I can easily find 20% right now that we can chop off of that overhead.
Yeah.
All right. So, and here's the cool thing, man. Like if your monthly overhead is, $25,000 and you get a 50% gross profit on your jobs, you break even at $50,000.
Right.
Right. You take that same 25 grand, you shave off, what would I say, 20%?
Yeah.
Now your overhead's 20 grand. Now you break even at $40,000. So now you need less leads, less sales, and all that just because your overhead is lower. So, so that's second goal. So to me, it's the profit goal. It's the overhead goal. And let me just say, with the profit goal, I also include in there a personal income goal because listen, if you're not taking care of yourself and your own family, then this is going to be a really hard climb. And then third goal for me is a time goal. How do I want to spend my time? And how much do I want to work? What do I want to not do? Like we said before, is just as important as what I want to do. I don't want to babysit, right? I don't want to have to spend my life. I know a lot of guys listening to this. Sometimes in your job description as a contractor, your people are out in the field and they're doing stuff and things are getting away from you. And you feel like your job description's number one duty is apologizer.
Yeah.
You like every time you talk to a client, you're apologizing. Like I don't want to run that sort of a business. I don't want to spend my time doing that. And so by setting that time goal, it forces me to hire better quality people.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's reverse engineer that. Okay, I want to work X amount of hours a year, X amount of days a year. So what do I need in place in order for that to happen? Well, I need another guy who thinks like an owner.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to pay him really well. And I'm going to have to expect a lot out of him. And we're going to have some weekly accountability. And not even accountability in the sense like I'm babysitting you, but just going, hey, fill me in. What's going on?
Yeah.
And you work it backwards that way. Instead of being what most of us have done, we go, well, I can't afford to pay somebody that much money.
Yeah.
Well, then you wonder why you can't take a day off and why you're continually babysitting. So reverse engineer that.
It's funny. I was listening to a podcast last week, and the fellow said to the guy that's being interviewed, so tell me, in your experience, what's the number one area that you see businesses not growing because of? Like, what's the main cause that businesses don't grow? And the guy said, honestly, the number one reason that I see all across the board is companies are too slow to hire, too slow to replace themselves in areas.
Yep.
And I think it's a fine line, isn't it, between like minimizing your overheads and then investing in the business with overhead.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it comes down to the goals and like having everything mapped out. But, it's so easy sometimes to go, oh, you know what, I don't want to do this. I'll just hire someone to do it. But realistically, you've got to look at, I suppose, what's the bottom line there? Like how is that going to add value to the business's profit margin?
Yeah, absolutely. And so here's the thing. If you have somebody, let's say you have somebody who's a salesperson and they come and they want to work for you and they go, I want to make $100,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
I will immediately say, okay, I'm going to pay you $100,000 a year, but here's what I want in return. I mean, it's really that simple. If you want big boy money, you're going to have a big boy job description.
Yeah.
And, some people go, well, what do you got $100,000 laying around? You're going to pay this guy? I'm like, no, because I have a weekly meeting because we track and we have conversations and we see where things are at. I'm going to know a month or two in if he's the guy or not.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to roll the dice, give you the benefit of the doubt, and give you what you want. Because the only way you're going to get everything you want is if you're, if there's a big ROI on the other end.
Yep.
And so I think we have to be, and what usually happens is guys will hire somebody for whatever role in their business, and then they don't have any regular measurement
right
processes in place. You know what I mean? They're not having a regular meeting. They're not.
Okay. And this, I guess, is going to tie into the next episode. We're talking about keeping accountable and that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
All right, sweet. I'm pretty happy with wrapping that up there. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I think one other thing is being relentless.
Yep.
And I don't know if you ever heard of Warren Buffett's 5-25 rule. Does that ring a bell?
No, what is it?
He says, listen, make a list of the 25 things you want to do in life. He's talking in goals here. Now do the top 5 and never again think about the other 20.
I have heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so most of us say that something is a goal, but we're not fanatical or obsessed or relentless about it.
Yeah.
And so if you want to know if something's important to you, look at your calendar.
Yeah.
Look at your checking account, because our money and our time always flows to the things that are really important to us. And so, I think we got to stop lying to ourselves and think like, oh, I didn't reach the goal. And you go, it was just too high of a goal or whatever. No, chances are you either had way too many of the wrong goals or you just weren't totally sold out on the one thing.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage people to set less goals. I think if you just set those 3 goals that we talked about, a lot of other things are going to fall into place.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful. All right. Well, that's great. Thank you for that. We'll close that episode off now, I think, and then we're going to come back for the third and final episode in the Getting Stuff Done series. Tom Reber, thank you for joining us once again.
appreciate it, Matt. It was a pleasure.
Let's come back soon, and we're going to record that third episode. For the listeners that missed the first episode, be sure to head back and head out creating a game plan in your business. That was episode 1, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from this show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.